Hello again and welcome to Shed Talk, my weekly magazine video series looking at the keeping, breeding and showing of caged birds with a particular focus on the exhibition style budgerigar. And although that's normally the main focus, in fact in this episode we're going to have a little gone back out into the Fife and the Finch and Fife shed and have a bit of an update from there, because we haven't had one, or we didn't have one in the last episode. So that will be one of the main focuses in this particular episode. We won't neglect the budgerigar, so there will be an update from in here as well. As always, don't forget, if you enjoy these videos, do hit the like button. Please do subscribe. All the subscriptions help the channel to grow, and as I always say, it helps to, well, nearly always, it helps to promote the hobby more widely on social media and with an audience we might not normally reach. Do of course comment in the comment section. I do read all the comments and I do try to answer them all. So what we'll do now then is we'll nip out to the Finch and Fife flight and begin with Fifes from breeding to bench. So starting out here then in the Finch and Fife shed, we'll start with Fifes from breeding to bench. And what I thought I would do is just talk about the young birds and my very early thoughts of them. Now, bearing in mind I've not had a chance to study any of these birds in any depth in the showcase, but when I come in here there's one or two of them that just start to, you know, catch my eye, and I just thought I'd talk about that and also go for my view on whether they're cock hen or buff or yellow. So my thoughts on what the bird in. We'll start with the birds that are in the top two cages, and we'll start off with this clear bird here that you can see, and in my view this bird is a cock bird. It has been singing quite strongly, so I'm pretty much definite that it's a cock bird. It's one of the birds off the first round that we had, so it's a slightly older bird. It looks to me as if it is going to be a buff, so the type of feather is going to be buff. My overall view of this bird is, from my liking, is it's a little bit too big. I look at it compared with Mum, and it's a bit bigger than Mum, and it's so it sort of put me off a little bit just by the sheer size, or the fact that it just looks too big. I probably at the moment, my first thoughts at the moment is this bird probably won't go into next year's breeding team, so it'll be one of the birds I will look to get rid of at some stage in the future. Bearing in mind, still got a little while to go before I make any decision on any of the birds that are going. So that's the first bird then, and like I say, I believe this bird to be a clear yellow cockbird. Right, the next one is in the same cage as this, it's the next one along. That bird is also almost certainly a cockbird. I've heard this bird singing really strong, and I think this bird is a slightly variegated, so a ticked bird. It's just got the ticking on the top of the head, so I think it will go in that ticked class, 10% class is my guess. It's a cockbird, and I also think this particular cockbird is a yellow feathered bird, just because some of the feathers look quite bright, but like I say, I'm not an expert on this, and I may need to get a second opinion or wait until it's a bit older. Now this bird I particularly like. It's off the second round of birds, so it is a bit younger than the bird we just looked at, but I do like this young Fife. It seems to have a nice shape to it. I like the way the head moves into the body, and there is, when I look at it, there is a break between the, in the neck. It's smaller than the bird we just looked at, as I say, so I think this cockbird will probably make the breeding team next year, and I think I might get this one out on the show bench at some stage in the future, because we've got a little while to wait before the main Fife shows start, because all the birds are currently still either going through the moult or aren't in the best condition. So anyway, so this particular bird then, as I say, probably will make my show team, will be held back for next show based on my early views on this, and it's a 10% or a ticked yellow cockbird. Right, so we'll move on then to the two that are these, so the last two, or sorry, not the last two, the next two birds, and these two birds are again off the first round, so they're slightly older birds, and they're both in the same cage at the moment. They are both hens. I've not heard any of these make a single noise, or I'm assuming they're both hens, because I've not heard either of these two birds make a single noise the whole time I've been in the shed, not even a chirp, which some of the others, particularly some of the other birds that I think are probably hens, are making. So so I think these two birds are hens, and once again we've got a we'll start off with the heavily variegated hen, and this bird, I'm almost certain that this bird is a buff, and again this is a bird that I particularly like. Every time I come in and see it, it seems to be developing into a nice sort of Fife, and I say again a nice Fife for what I've got in my shed in comparison with the others. Nice shape, nice head on it, and overall it positions itself quite well, holds its wings well. If anything, the tail just looks a bit messy, but I'll see what I can do. If we're going to take this one out to a show, I'll see what I can do. A hen, as I say, so, and probably a keeper for next year. So this particular bird then is a heavily variegated buff hen, and will be a keeper for next year, I think. The other bird that is down here in the same cage as it is a 10% or a ticked bird, also a hen. Like I say, I've not heard either of these two birds sing at all. And this particular bird then is a yellow, I believe. The feathers on it look quite bright, so I'm assuming it is a yellow, and I am assuming that it's a ticked bird, although it might have a little bit more than 10%. It might need to slip into the heavily variegated class. Probably take a view on that from some of the people who are better at identifying the classes than certainly I am at the moment. So that's the other bird, or the other bird that is in there. Again, I quite like this bird, not too big. Both of the two birds we just looked at in that cage are not too big. So he's not too big, but not quite got the shape when he's standing. Doesn't hold his shape quite as well as the heavily variegated buff hen that we just looked at. So yeah, so this bird here then is a I think 10%, but maybe heavily variegated, and it's a yellow hen. Probably I will keep this bird, particularly as it's a hen, for the next breeding season. So the final two birds we're going to look at are birds that are in the cage together, and I think I made a mistake with one of these. Previously I said, so the first one we'll look at then is the what I call, you know, the baldy one, the one that had been quite heavily feather plucked. It's got most of the feathers back, still missing a bit on the top. It's a heavily variegated yellow, and I did think this bird was a cockbird. However, I'm now reasonably sure that it's a hen, because the only noise that this bird is making is a little chirp that sounds the same as the hen that we had in the for breeding last year or this year. So I'm reasonably certain that this is a hen. And whilst it's quite obviously never going to make, I don't think it's ever going to make the show team, because it's never going to quite get the feathers back on the top of the head, I don't think. I actually do quite like the shape of this bird. It's a small bird, so nice in terms of its size, and it's got a nice body shape to it. It lacks a little bit in the head, I think, but I think I will probably keep this bird and look for a a buff that's got the head style to it. So yeah, see if I can get hold of one of those off of somebody for the next breeding season. And the final bird we're going to look at is this bird here, which is a clear, and I believe it's a clear buff. And this bird is actually definitely a cockbird. I have heard this bird sing. It sings when the other two cockbirds that we saw right at the beginning are singing. So I'm reasonably sure that this bird is a cockbird. And my only concern, well, I mean, it's not the greatest of birds, and it also looks a little bit big, but that may just be in comparison with that nice little heavily variegated bird that's in there with it. It might be just that I'm getting a slightly different view of it from that. So will I be keeping this one? I don't know. It's not got the tightest of wings, but generally it's not too bad. I need to see how this bird develops. So that's all of the Fifes. So with considering the Fifes in a bit more general, so my plan now is, now I'm beginning to identify the cocks and the hens, is and the ones that I'm thinking about showing. So the ones that I'm thinking about showing, I'm going to separate off into single cages. So into the single cages that we've got, the old breeding cage, separated those out. I'll start to separate those and keep those in there. There's probably, I don't think there's going to be any more than 4 in total, which will actually leave me 2 breeding cages that I can have slightly larger. And those birds, the birds that will go in those slightly larger ones, are going to be cockbirds. I'm hoping to get 2 cockbirds in the 2 larger breeding cages, and then all the hens that are not going to be shown, or that I don't think I'm likely to show, will go into the main flight. My thinking behind this is that the hens probably need more exercise than the cockbirds. So that's my thinking behind it. People that breed canaries, and particularly people that are breeding Fifes that are more experienced than me, let me know your thoughts on that. So all the hens in the main flight with the zebras is my plan. That may be held up slightly by what's going on currently in the Fife flight, and we'll get on to that now. So I said in the last episode that the zebras weren't going down to breed, and that I had not seen any of them going in and out of the nest boxes very much recently, and I was going to take the nest boxes out. Well, lo and behold, start to take the first nest box down, check inside it, massive great big nest in there. I don't know how many times it must have used every bit of nesting material I've ever put in. Sorry, there's a couple of the birds down here that are having a bit of a disagreement. Starting to do more and more of that, so I might have to separate those two. Anyway, back to the Fifes, back to the zebras. Took the nest box down, opened it up, and this is what we found. So lots and lots of eggs, and in 2 batches by the looks of it. So they've been almost like they've been laid one side and then some more laid the other side. Both sets of eggs are warm, and I'm assuming it's the same hen that is going in there. And I think it is the hen that we are looking at now that is the hen that is laying. She is the only bird I've seen going into that nest box. Whether any of these are going to be full or not, I don't know. I'm going to give it another week and have a look. I'll have another look in there and see if we've got any chicks. If not, I'm going to candle the eggs and have a look to see if any of them are full. If they're not full, then I am going to throw them and take the next boxes down, so that I can get on with separating up the Fifes. So we may have it, having left the zebras for a little bit longer, we may actually have finally got, well, we have got eggs in the nest box, hens sitting on them. Whether any of them are going to be fertile, we are yet to see. Right, so that's enough from out here. Let's go back and have a quick talk about what's going on in the budgerigar shed. Well, here in the budgerigar shed, the first thing I suppose was to say that we got cage labels for the Northampton show. So there are the cage labels all ready to go. So the main focus out here has of course been continuing to work with the birds that I'm planning to get out for the show. We won't have a look at any of those. I know there is often concern about, you know, people posting stuff about here's a bird that I'm taking to this show and here's a bird that I'm taking to that show. For me, I don't see that it makes a great deal of difference, because, you know, we trust the judge to judge the bird that he sees on the day, not something that he might have seen on social media. However, I know some people raise concerns about it, so I won't show any of the birds that I am planning to take, but you will see them in the next episode. So that's been the first thing then, I suppose, has been finishing off with the preparation of the birds ready for Northampton. There's just final little bits and pieces that I need to do with them, final looks at spots and that sort of thing. They will all be done. The other big thing, I suppose, that is going on in here, you may remember from, I think it might have been the last episode, we cleaned all of the breeding cages out. Well, I'm beginning to think about that now, thinking about the next breeding season. I know it feels like the other one's only just finished, so that's top of my mind now, is thinking about, so which of these birds are I'll be looking to keep ready for the next breeding season. Now, I'm planning to have, you may remember that I'm not going to use the wooden breeding cages next year. I'm going to revert back to just having all wire cages, and I'm hoping to get another 2 of the all wire cages, which will give me 8 breeding cages in total. I would like to have, and I don't think I'm going to manage it this year, but I'd like to have 3 hens that I could use in each of the breeding cages. So that's not at the same time, but just in case one fails. So we'll have our top sort of 8, and then our second 8, and then our sort of third team of 8. So if a hen fails early on, I can take her out and pop another one in there quite quickly, so we're not wasting time with it. So with 8 breeding cages, and if I was looking at 3 hens per breeding cage, that would mean I would need a total of 24 hens. I don't think I have that. But we will get as close to the 24 hens as we can that I want to keep for breeding. Now, I'm not going to just have 24 hens for the sake of it. So if it's not good enough for me to breed with, then I obviously won't put it in the breeding cage. But that's the thought process. So 24 hens, and I'd like to think that I'm going to keep about 2 cock birds for each of those hens, which would mean I'd be looking to keep about 16 cock birds. I don't think I'm going to have too much of a problem finding the 16 cock birds, whether all of them will be the best, would be birds that I would want to breed with, but we'll see. So 16, which means I'll be looking at keeping around about 40 birds in total, and the rest would be looking to go. So with that in mind, for the very next episode, I'm going to begin by starting to sort through all of the hens. I will have made room in the stock cages, because I can put the show team back into the main flights for a period of time, so I can get the birds out, the hens out, and use the stock cages as sort of holding cages while I'm making up my mind. So that will be for the very next episode of Shed Talk, is we will start to sort through the hens, and what I will probably do is start with the hens, the young bird hens, then move on to the adult bird hens, and then future episodes down the line we'll begin to sort through the cock birds, and then begin to think about what we're going to pair to what, based on the early thoughts from the end of the last breeding season. But that is for future episodes, and that really is it from inside the Budgerigar shed. Hope you enjoyed the episode. It was a bit more focused on the 5 canaries this time round. As I say, next time will be a big focus on the Budgerigars, and I also hope that we will have some clips from Northampton. Now, depending on how long the next episode is going to be, when we're looking at the hens, I may have a sort of midweek special looking at the Northampton show. Don't know yet. We'll have to think about see how that one goes. So that is for the next episode. Like I say, if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to hit the like button. But most importantly, as always, do stay safe and enjoy your birds.